Welcome to my talk, Improving Conceptual Understanding and Development. I thought yesterday about changing the title a bit. You see it a bit in the background? Gladly I found a picture with that text. Think outside the box. When you think about concepts and understanding concepts, you can, I think, only understand them if you go a bit outside of your box and try to see the whole picture. Yeah. Who am I? I've been developing websites since GeoCities was cool. That was in about 1996. I think not many people know it. I was 12 years old. It was a few years after my oldest brother taught me how to program Pascal. And so it's almost been 20 years now that I do the web stuff. 2005 about, I was starting with Tableau 3. 2007 I started earning actual money with it. And 2 years ago I fell in love with Neos. And now I'm more and more working with Neos. This year I did the Scrum Master certification because I realized there's more than just programming and technology. There's also teaching, learning, spreading knowledge, gaining knowledge. I love hiking, mountains, and cooking, especially baking. What I will talk about. Why is conceptual understanding important in general? Project ownership has to be fostered. It's a prerequisite for understanding concepts and having them in your heart. How can agile methods help you? And what you can do. This is a bit like different roles. What can you do as a developer? Why is conceptual understanding important? When I was introduced, he said that my secret passion is the pen and paper role-playing games. John yesterday asked me about the secret passion. It was the first thing that came to my mind. And when I was sitting in the previous talk and listened to Christian, I suddenly had an idea or a thought. This is actually quite similar to conceptual thinking. I will explain it shortly. With pen and paper role-playing games, there are like 5, 6 nerds or people sitting around the table in the evening. They have some chips there, they have some Coke, they have some coffee and tea. And then one guy explains, you are in a kind of world. He tells you it's like in a storybook. You will see you're in a forest and you hear the birds and so on, like something like that. And all the other people, they are persons in this world that is described. Like one person is a very strong fighter, or the other is like a witch, or you can have different roles. There are also other kinds of this game where you are detectives or even cowboys, and so you play in this world, but you only know about this world by talking to each other. There is no book that you read usually. There is no, often you don't even have pictures. You have nothing. You have only like the words that are said and a piece of paper where, for example, if you have this kind of game where you fight, you need some numbers where you can say, okay, I roll a dice and then I see if I hit the other one. So think a bit, often it's a bit like this Lord of the Rings, you can imagine what we're actually in this game doing. But often we spend like 3 hours in this world in our minds talking about the price of a sword on the market. So it's like here. And then this one guy plays the shop seller, he wants to have a lot of money, and you want to have the a cool sword so you can attack something and so on. So you have this big concept of this world, and the longer you play, the bigger this world grows, the more you have to remember also, and you always have to communicate with the others, because 6 people must have the same view on the world and must understand it in the same way so you can play together. It wouldn't work if somebody thinks, yeah, we are in a futuristic world with rockets, and the other one thinks we are with cowboys. That would not work. So you have to be always in sync with that. Maybe because I was been playing this game thanks to my older brothers since I was maybe also 6, 7, 8 years old. Maybe this helped me a bit in developing more of this conceptual thinking. And why is it also important? I said that I've been doing the web development stuff for almost 20 years now. After 20 years, in my old age now, I can say that the technical stuff is actually not that interesting anymore. Web stuff is not, so of course it can also be very complicated, but it's usually there's a solution somewhere. It's not like shooting a rocket to the moon. But it's still difficult, and you know in your everyday work and when you're on the internet, there are always problems, like security problems, and here and there are problems. It's not like a solved issue to create websites and applications. So that's why I think it's important that we have to grow above the technology and think more and more with the agile and lean methods about what else is important, what is the actual issue there, like communication and requirements engineering, all these kinds of things. So I will talk about that. As I said, websites and apps are not rocket science. They are solvable, and usually nobody dies. They are also not just pieces of code. There's much, much more. Websites and apps are super complex. You can almost not read the word complex, so complex it is. This is maybe a bit too complex, but there are a lot of connections and all kinds of things that you have to think about. And every project in my life was still a new challenge, even if it looked easy at first. I like this picture very much. There's the idea of a project, and then there's the final result, or a certain result. They can look similar. Like the customer wanted to have a box. He wanted to have it cheap. So the result is still a box. But if you look here, something is a bit off there. First, you achieve the goal that it's cheap because it's empty, but it's still a box, so the customer is happy. And I think the team who built that, like they had the right ideas at all the corners. They thought about these connections and what they need, and so on. And this guy thought about this corner, and this guy, and they knew, okay, we have to connect our two corners here. But then something happened. They thought maybe it was cheaper to do it this way because the budget was limited, but somehow it doesn't really look correct. And for me, this picture represents a lot of projects I've seen in my life. They are generally on the first look right, but then there is this crazy thing here. And then you have to refactor or fix bugs and all kinds of things, and maybe this will last for years in the project until you find a better solution. So why are those things complex? There are organizational complexities. I will just have some examples, like requirements engineering. What does the customer actually want? What does his customers need? Like Christian said in the talk before, Microsoft did a survey and said that 2/3 of the features that are implemented are completely useless, or nobody uses them. And maybe some CEO is happy about them, but nobody else. Teamwork. Teamwork is very difficult. You need such a long time to build a team, and every time you know that from Scrum, it's taught in Scrum, every time you change the team a little, like removing or adding a person, the team starts again, and you have to do all kinds of things again. And there's a nice, this is tale that I learned here when I was going through Angkor, and you see it often. There are those the gods and the demons. You see them, I think, on bridges and so on. They are holding a snake, and in the center there's this big thing. What is it called?
It's the cobra and the turtle underneath.
Yeah.
And on the top you can see a Shiva is holding it.
So what they want to do is actually, there is this ocean of milk, and in there somehow, doesn't matter so much, by churning this ocean of milk, they try to gain the essence of life. So they live forever and are invincible, something like that. And each group, like the gods and the demons, they are not friends. They both want to have that. So they try both to achieve the goal, but it doesn't work. So at one point they decide, okay, let's work together. Let's churn this ocean of milk for 1,000 years together, and then we can finally have it. Of course, both sides wanted it for themselves, but still, they teamed up, and it worked out. At the end, still some other stuff happened, but the teamwork actually worked. And there are also limited budgets. That's always like this #1 factor that we're out of money now, rush. Release. Done. There are also technical complexities, dependency management. I think that this is really horrible because you can have any number of dependency managers and so on. The continuous delivery, build, test, and integrate. This is solvable. A lot of companies do it. It's also not rocket science, but it's still a steady thing where you have to work on and really remind yourself also to improve on it, especially on the testing part. Performance and scalability. This is also an important factor because this is sadly often ignored or forgotten. And since I'm spending more time in Cambodia, sitting somewhere in a hut with my phone and trying to open websites, I remind myself much more often to check if a website is fast enough or not. Is it small enough so I can look at the website in a small hut somewhere here in the village? And of course, scalability is it can 1,000 people in those huts look at it at the same time. There's also a sometimes forgotten complexity, the very, very important one. It's about people must actually be able to use your product. It's not like you do it and then you put it somewhere and people just look at it. There are people who have to work with it every day, over and over. In one of my projects, there are 50 people who have to use our software on a daily basis. And if they are not fast enough, they get a lot of problems with that process. And what makes a product usable? Customized solutions. You should not just give the customer something and then let him do all kinds of things and learn on his own. You have to adapt your product to the customer, to his needs. For example, by disabling functionality if you have this big framework. You have to think about your workflows. Can the customer or client and users work efficiently with it? Is it easy? Like, I know editors who have to do some things over and over again every day. And if you can reduce the amount of time they need by 30%, they spend so much time, and this time they can sit outside, drink some coffee, have fun in their lives, read a book, get more knowledge, all kinds of things. Or work on other things. Good performance is impossible. if you sit there and the website takes its time to respond, you waste a lot of time in your life. There are dangers. I like this picture because this danger, I added this, both genders here, working online. Originally meant they worked on some electricity lines, I think, but working online is also the same danger. Miscommunication is so expensive. That's what I meant with those, when I said that after 20 years, so this technical stuff is like not so complicated anymore. If I'm in a project, the most problems come that people don't talk to each other, they talk in the wrong way to each other, they don't want to talk to each other, or the people who actually know what is important are not even asked. Every change in a project can have undesired effects. Performance degradation, you add some cool new feature and suddenly the website is slow. Usability, you add a button and now, like in a web shop, web shops are optimized that as much people as possible press buy. And there are a lot of work has been done to find out how to improve this rate. And sometimes, like Google, they found out if they change the color of the button like a tiny bit, 3% people buy more by 3% increase just by changing this bit of the color. Stability issues. If something doesn't work, you lose clients or end users. And also the relationship with the client can be affected. I saw that in one project that we didn't, for a while we were very stressed, we had a lot of projects. We didn't pay enough attention to what the client actually wanted, and they were like about to leave us. Until we really saw, oh, we have to do something. We changed our approach. We thought much more for what they actually need. We talked much more to them. We invited them. We built this relationship up again. And then half a year later, they said, "It's so wonderful to work with us," and increased the budget. There are some solutions for some of those things, like automated testing. You can test on stability with automated tests. You can also check automatically the performance. Like try to crush the server with thousands of requests or millions, or have like this page speed and all these kinds of performance tests. Especially web shops and other big websites who want to sell something or who want to have users come on board use a lot of A/B testing. That some users see the one version of the website, some users see a different version, and then you check which is more successful, and then you build on that. Very sadly, there are no automatic tests for editor's efficiency, because the editor can also have a bad day or something. And the client's happiness is also not testable. We can call them every day and say, "Are you happy?" And one day he says, "I'm 5% less happy." I don't know if that works. Clients are sadly also used to bad solutions. Often the clients or the editors or people ask me, "Can you?" It's really like one example is last week I think was they asked me, "I want to change all the title of all pages in our website, which like a few hundreds. They have to be customized, all of them." For me, it was the first time a customer actually wanted to have customize all titles of all pages and didn't want to have it auto-generated. And so she asked me, what is the best way for her to add the company name to all of those titles? She wanted to do that herself for hundreds of pages. And I just wrote, "No, you don't do that." I spent 5 minutes and then it was fixed. She didn't have to do anything. And also my other projects. The customers, especially if you ask them what they want, they will give you a very complicated answer because they will tell you what they have before. And then you have to do a lot of engineering and finding out and also build a relation to find out what they actually want to do. We will talk a bit about more on this tomorrow in the Improve Editor's Life with News. So it's sometimes not good to listen to 100% what the clients want say, but to what they need. That is more important. Many development teams don't know what the clients are doing. The client has a bad experience. You as in a team, you have to feel the urge to improve it. Like it doesn't, in the evening you sit there at dinner and think, don't feel happy. They have to use it, they are unhappy, they complain. Or sometimes they don't complain, which is worse. And you have to feel, I want to do something about it. You have to find sustainable solutions. Like not only for this case, but how can it be improved in a way that we will never hear about it again? You have to work with the client, not just come up with a solution and then asking if this time is correct, but send different solutions every time again. I did that, I implemented something, the client said, that's not what we wanted. And then they told me something, and then I tried to implement it again, and I thought, this doesn't make sense. Then we talked and talked again, and at some point we had finally a good solution. You have to try to understand the client, because they only, like, if you're a development team, you have a very technical view of a client, often the editor, for example, or also the management, they work with Office tools. They have a different view on all these projects, a different view on usability and what they want to achieve. So you have to bring those two worlds together and think from a different view. Let a team get to know the client. He's not the devil. In my experience, when we invited the client, for example, and everyone talked to them, or the team members presented their work, the relationship became much better. Like, we had a developer, and we had someone on the client side. When they had a phone call, they shouted at each other. They hated each other. They didn't want to work together. When we invited this guy and his boss and so on, and they sat together, since then they were great. For some reason they didn't know how to talk to each other, but by sitting together and looking into the other's eyes, suddenly they realized, yeah, the guy is not so bad. He wants the same, but he's just bad at saying it. And this improved our efficiency a lot. Use agile tools. For example, retrospectives. There you can talk about your processes. What was wrong, what is not so efficient. You can talk about the teamwork, how to build up the team, and think as a team about what you want to achieve, and also how to grow. I really like this table in the morning where you saw this skill table. What worker can do what. This is very similar to the skill radar, which is also, I saw first on the ThoughtWorks website, I think. We did this with one Scrum team. And at the end we knew exactly who's good at what, who can teach the other ones, where do we have to do something because knowledge is missing. And then we had, for example, the one guy said, okay, I'm not good at type 3 yet, I will go to a code sprint. And then we knew how to solve this little issue there. And we also put a timetable on that, when should the knowledge be there and so on. Reviews. Do internal reviews and user testing. Your colleagues can test, of course. That's, for me, very important. but maybe also invite some others to test. Like if you have in your company interns. Interns are very good because they don't know so much yet usually. And if you put them on your product and they have to work with it, they will tell you, and you will see if you sit next to them what the problem is actually are. Let developers present their work, not like just the boss presents it to the customer, but also each developer. You have to be proud of what you're doing. If you create a cool feature, like a cool JavaScript animation thing, let this developer stand there and present it to the client and be proud of it. If then the client says, this is great work, after that, the work will just be much better. The developer will be confident, and the client will also learn to trust the team much more. Keep some slack in the planning, because not everything you will do will work perfectly, usually, or is at the first time completely correct. You need some time in your sprints or whatever structure you have to work on those improvements. Because don't kill ideas with overcomplicated processes. Don't force every small change into a ticket necessarily. The process can be better, because the client, if you have an idea how to improve your feature a lot, and it would only take 10 minutes, take those 10 minutes. Be transparent about it. Bring up the idea, for example, in the dailies. Yep. And if the team says, yes, that's a cool idea, do it. Spend this time, but not much more than you say. And because I often also had it that we had great ideas, and then years passed, and at some point we found them somewhere down in our boards, and nobody ever implemented them. Refresh a project's vision regularly. The same saying that Christian used in the last talk, sometimes the trees block your view on the forest. You don't remember what you actually wanted to do as a whole. Sometimes you remember, but you're too busy with your daily work. And it's important that as a team, the PO can, for example, it's his job to transport also this vision. And also as a team, you can remind each other what you wanted to do. As a developer, you can see tasks as a challenge, not just as, oh, I have to do that again. You can, that's what I always say to developers, you see it as a challenge. Everything can be a challenge. Even if you do the same grid layout thing the 10th time, but the 10th time, maybe you have the idea how to do it much better than the first 9 times. So, it's a challenge to improve. Try to see your work from a different point of view, as editor, as end user, as manager, as involved in shaping the project, come up with your own ideas. Maybe the people who thought about the requirements didn't think of everything. I have a code. You are yeah, you can shape a project as a team. It's not like written in stone how a project should be. You can shape. At one point our customer said, yeah, we don't have any ideas anymore, now you do it like this. Budget is the same. It's very nice, but we were a bit overwhelmed. Defend your ideas and concepts. This is something, it's a bit hard. Not all people want to do that, can do that, because you have to be strong. But you can learn that. and agile at retrospectives and so on. The plannings, there are a place where you can do that. If you have some good ideas, defend them. Because sometimes, the first time you say that, everyone will think it's silly. But after you try to elaborate it a bit more or communicate it in a different way, just different words, suddenly everybody will say, yeah, that's great. Teach others. You're not alone. Just be alone. Cooperate and ask for help. It's not a bad thing. Also pair programming helps there. And then write down or draw what you know. Look at what Christian showed, what tools he showed, what you can do there. If you gain knowledge by talking to someone, like PO, or you talk to the customer, or you define something as a team, write it down or draw it somewhere. The ticket. I saw so many tickets where I looked into it and wondered, this doesn't make so much sense. Then I asked the team, and they said, yeah, we know what is going on. We have the missing information, but nobody ever wrote it down. So information that is not written somewhere in a project doesn't really exist because people forget it. And it's not so much work to update a ticket or write a README or do some documentation, especially with those tools. Celebrate success. Yeah, that's so important. If you achieve something, if the client was happy, if you had a great review, if you get the score 6, which is the best, be happy. Get a drink, enjoy each other. And your teammate did a great feature which customer really liked. Tap on his shoulder, say, you did a great job. Thank you. T3CON, which is the Cambodian thank you.